Why astrology? You know, we get to this portion of each year where up here in the northern climes of our planet, questions might arise as to how has the year gone? And that's a kind of a seemingly simple question. But why at this time of our celestial cycle might these questions surface just a little bit more predominantly? For some, no, maybe not. The archetypal significance of the sign of Sagittarius can you sense possibly a pull to be on some level of a quest? You know, Sagittarius is the sign that, you know, there's a seeking quality to it in meaning. What are the reasons for things being the way they are? Is there something more that is beckoning, a level of participation that perhaps I haven't quite, tuned into effectively enough? This is the realm of Sagittarius. There's that inkling, sensing, there's something more that it's there. I can feel it. What is it? Back to that question that I started this out with. Astrology. Why? Each of us, as a soul being, arrived to do this physical material dance here on earth. With versions of that quest archetype always there, sometimes a little more adamant, present, that calling says, there's something, that I sense within me that knows at some level there's a reason why I am here. Astrology. Here's a tool. That's right, it's just a tool. I have to admit that my attraction to astrology has led me to the awareness that it's a very potent tool if used appropriately. There can be snippets or sound bites of information that astrologically can be, fashioned to tickle our imaginations in one way or another, to lead us to say, oh, yeah, this would be a good time to, jump, bump, dance, twirl, and whirl into the experience of relationship. in this moment, is that more to the front? Well, for some, yeah. For others, maybe not so much. But always, is it a relationship? Is it an artistic endeavor? Is it a business perspective? How do I want to use my resources? Is the expression coming through me able to, tweak the things that I want it to tweak? These are all, questions that surface. Astrology provides us, I should say, can provide us insight into many avenues. And, this life experience here on Earth has got multiple options as far as the potential of avenues available to us. Which ones are more poignant at this moment for you, for me, for us as a collective to meditate upon, to really, sink our energy into in an effective enough way that something will surface to point us in an appropriate direction that is why I came to be here on planet Earth. I strongly suspect that many, if not most, of the, options that modern society gives us as what they refer to the way that we can go forward in this life by providing for ourselves. Yeah, that's theoretically but providing for the social structure machine that says that this is what we need. And because this is what we need, this is what we need to do in order to make sure that those things that we need are going to be provided. I have to ask you, how much of what it is that you have been sold as needs are really making your life better? Is the recompense, the money you are exchanging for your time, providing you with enough sustenance that doesn't just feed your body but feeds your soul awareness? At this particular time of year in the Sagittarian dance that we're all doing right now, because the sun. Here's some basic astrological information. Without the sun, none of this would exist the way it exists right now. So the sun, which is vitality, it's a spiritual fuel. Many things come to mind when I think of the sun. The the core center of what we refer to as a solar system, because that sun is the core, we need to make sure that we don't discount the vitality that it represents for each of us and all of life. The symbol for the sun, a circle with a point in the middle. Now, what does that represent? It's a unique point, that point in the middle, of individual awareness, surrounded and nurtured by the circle of spirit. So I have to ask you, how tuned in is your awareness to the function of spirit in your everyday life? You know, is there a delight in greeting that solar orb each day and thanking it for allowing this living quality of the experience of being present and alive in this moment? You might contemplate that, because it's pretty darn important. And as we do the dance through Sagittarius at this time of the year, all that solar awareness of the sun moving through the signs of the zodiac, tweaking, tickling, goading, asking us to participate in certain aspects of our awareness of being. Come here into this, waning time of this solar essence each year as we go through Sagittarius, getting ready for Capricorn. It's coming soon, next week, not this coming week, but the week after, where we will reach here in the northern climes the shortest amount of sunshine in any of our days for the entire year. Are you appreciative of that solar essence? The Sagittarius time of year, we're given the opportunity to, if you will, meditate upon where is it that the awareness of what was given opportunity to awaken in the preceding year being brought to focus? Did I learn something? Did we learn something? Is the experience of what I am understanding, making my life, our lives, a better and more unique experience as the light grows less each day at this time of year? Have I appreciated effectively enough that solar dance? You can kind of feel this time of year there's a pulling together of energy substance and saying, did I put enough aside for the cooler, darker time of year in order to be able to make it through to that point where once again springtime comes and Aries and that solar essence says, wake up. I'm trying to inspire within you the experience of being alive. For here, as we approach the winter solstice, the shortest sunlight day of the year, factors of time are in play. We putting aside the clock time. You can look at time very differently, and this is one of those, astrological versions of time that we don't often contemplate. Each daylight hour is shortened here in our northern part of the planet as a 1/12 of the daylight available. So you can kind of see that, there are no longer 60 minutes of, daylight time in each hour. It's shortened. And it gets shorter and shorter till we get to that shortest day of the year. There's less sunshine out there during the day. Right now, the sun is going down at 4:30 in the afternoon here. I'm in Washington. You start getting up into Alaska, and it's much earlier in the day. They're heading for that winter solstice when, nighttime comes and stays, and you get a little snippet of sunshine each day. Just a little teeny, brightness in the atmosphere. You get to see the stars a lot more if the weather's cooperating. This coming week, that's enough philosophizing for the moment. This coming week, as days shorten. I'm doing this on Saturday. We can go back to Saturday just to look. On this day, Mars goes retrograde. And I talked a little bit about this last week. But if we're looking at the Mars-Venus dance that's going on, as we proceed through the week, Venus, you can kind of see, is moving into more of an exact opposition with this retrograde Mars. Mars and Venus. Here's a dynamic kind of energy where Martian energy can often appear harsh in some senses because its energy is about what's the best way to describe it? It's an impulsive kind of action-oriented. Venus, on the other hand, is more about a reflective kind of energy that wants to, bring things together And you can kind of see this Mars energy doesn't necessarily bring things together, stirs the cauldron or pot rather vigorously. And Venus is it's the implements that make the reason for a cauldron relevant. The aspects of natural life. Venus is saying that we need to participate with one another. Mars, not so much. There's that individual impulsive drive to be, to do, to create something that is energized. But without Venus, would there be anyone to share that with? You can kind of see this Mars opposition Venus that's coming into play right now as saying that from the Leonian Martian perspective, I want to make an expressive splash with what it is that I am putting out there. It's Leo, after all, ruled by what? The sun. The reason for being alive. Mars is in retrograde. Goes into retrograde. Went into retrograde. Went into retrograde on that Saturday today, the day that I'm doing this, saying, you have to ask yourself, the process of what it is that I'm trying to stimulate, where is that going? Am I just doing it for myself? Or might there be other factors in play that I should pay attention to? There's our Venus asking us, from the Aquarian side of the perspective, is there any kind of a development of harmony that's a potential from the outworkings of this creative action? Or is it just, fireworks going off? Wow, it's delightful to watch and stuff. Do I feel better afterwards? Yeah, maybe a little bit, but does it carry any of the potential for longevity? This is the harmonious Venusian perspective seeks that. And in the sign of Aquarius, the avenue of focus is along the lines of community. Does that Leo Martian overt expression inspire aspects of community development? That's an essay question. There are no simple, easy answers to that. We actually need to contemplate that ourselves and say, is my world getting any bigger? Or might it be getting smaller? What else is going on right now? If I go back to Saturday, today, while I'm doing this, the sun, remember our focus on the sun here, is in exact opposition to Jupiter, the ruler of, and retrograde, of Sagittarius, which is where the sun is. This is a day of, what should we call it, perspective. That retrograde Jupiter over there in Gemini brings things up for considerations. Is my solar awareness effectively enough inspiring living content with what it is that that Jupiter ruler of Sagittarius in Gemini might be stirring the pot up to contemplate. Now, in the days of old, which, are not so very far away as most people might think, Jupiter is considered the greater benefic. Everybody's happy as a clam when Jupiter's in the equation, because why would we not want to, be excited that things are going to be expanded upon? Well, how, might I ask you, or what is it that is potentially being expanded upon? I'm bringing this up for a very good reason, and that is that if you see this nice T square that's going on right here, opposition between the Sun and Jupiter, and who's down here at this fulcrum? Saturn, time. That's what Saturn is, the chronocrator, the holder of the clock. Well, remember what I was just talking about with the clock time being not the same here at this time of year for us in the northern hemisphere, because the daylight hours have been shrinking. So you can kind of see that time is really more of a variable. Saturn, unlike the great benefactor, great Jupiter, the beneficiaries side, Saturn and Mars, they work on a slightly different perspective, but they're required. The Saturn version and the Jupiter version need to find some level of complementary working format, because they represent two sides of this living process. Saturn may seem like it wants to restrict things all the time because it's about boundaries and setting up a perimeter that says that this is the essence of the whole. Jupiter is like, yeah, I don't know. There seems like there is more, and we're in Sagittarius season, which, yeah, the idea of there is more is to the fore. Yet there, too much Jupiter of something can be very much a detriment. Yeah. Do you sense the potential for containment of that Jupiterian, Sagittarian, urge for more? This is the time of year when, we've had the delights of Thanksgiving already. Christmas is coming. Well, let's eat more than we normally eat. Why, you must ask? Is that a requirement? Oh, it's a celebration. A celebration of Christmas, a celebration for giving thanks for the Savior, who, by the way, that is not a celebration of the Savior's birth. He was born during the season of Virgo, which, if you look at all the historical storyline, it is a storyline, by the way, the things that they're talking about are definitely related to summertime. More a Leonian, Virgo kind of energy at work. And I won't entirely get into the reason why Christmas, the birth of Jesus, is celebrated at this time of year. Saturnalia was much more of a factor in play at this time of the year by, who shall we say? Oh, that's right, by the pagans. Those pagan rituals, our capacity to really intone ourselves with this planet that we live on. That is at the essential core of the pagan rituals, celebrations, more of an attunement with planet Earth, because it represents our survival. Back to the week. So here we are, December 11th, Wednesday of this upcoming week. It's a Mercurial day. You can kind of see that Mercury, still going retrograde for a little while longer, is in forming this really nice trine up to our Mars, which is in retrograde. And what is Mars doing? Mars is coming very close. It is actually on this day that it directly opposes that Venus. And we have to ask ourselves, are we going to be able to use that reason that Mercury stands for? Remember, it's retrograde. So we're rethinking how processes could go, or could have gone, or might go in the future once Mercury goes direct again. And that is in play with that Mars-Venus direct opposition. Am I going to be inclined to be the adamant, vibrant, fiery Martian, stir the pot vigorously? And at the same time, can I effectively be inclusive of others in what it is that I am thinking, using my reason, about how I want to go forward? This is Sagittarius, in expanding the potential of what it is that we are birthing in this darkening time of year moment. Is there enough to go around? Is there enough sharing? These are some of the factors that you often will hear given voice during this time of year. In our modern Western culture, there is some debate about how we manifest that. It isn't exactly as obvious as one might hope. Oh yeah, that's right. If we go through to the rest of the week, you can kind of see everything's moving. We get here Saturday, Sunday, look at that. Moon here, this is 8 o'clock in the morning, is at 28 degrees, which is 4 degrees past when it was full at 24 degrees of Gemini. What does What does Gemini have to say about this particular degree of the zodiac where we have the full moon in Gemini dancing? I should have had this marked, but I didn't. Well, there's an image that this particular degree where the full moon took place in Gemini speaks of palm trees. And to be specific, the image is a gardener trimming large palm trees. I spent some time living down in Southern California, Egypt, Baghdad, Iraq, places where the palm trees grew. And I was always intrigued as I watched these guys shimmy with their large machete up these palm trees and whack off the branches, making sure that all that loose fluff hanging down around the trees was cleaned off. And the reason that they did that, ironically, was because of the, ease of access on one sense, to be able to get up to the dates growing in the upper part of the palm trees, also to curtail the living environment, as it were, of the creatures that, took up residence in that fluffy part of the palm trees. Anyway, the keynote for this particular Sabian symbol says, bringing under control nature's power of expansion. If you went to a place where that didn't take care of that brushy stuff, the old dead palm fronds leaning down, they fall off of their own eventually, but, it gives a definite skirt appearance to a palm tree. And I'm going to just read a little bit more of this Sabian symbol here. The intellect of man is like a tropical plant, that it tends to expand wildly. Does that sound anything like a Mars planet in Leo, potentially? In many directions, seeking direct contact with the sun's rays. Well, that dead part is, it doesn't necessarily, but the top part of the palm tree, you can see those palm fronds stretching out, saying, and any tree, any plant actually spreads out to try and capture as much of that solar energy in order to survive. It's pretty important. Like a palm tree, it uses its dead leaves to protect itself against the dry heat of the realm of mind, when deprived of the complementary power of the feelings. A culture is characterized by specific forms and prime symbols. Education's main object, at least in cultural and classical periods, has been to contain the imagination of individuals within these traditional forms. An entirely different approach to education is being attempted in our transitional stage. And these are words put together by Dane Rudger back in the 20s, maybe the 30s, a while ago. And our educational system definitely was going through some changes. You no longer needed to, get comfortable with what it meant to work on a farm. Early to rise, early to bed. Because that was what was required when you were in tune with Mother Earth, with the cycle of production that being in and of the land requires. So this full moon, stretching from Sagittarius to Gemini, back and forth, that energy of, curiosity and expansive qualities of consciousness, Sagittarius. And back to that quest of what else is there, the Gemini curiosity, which really doesn't know any end unless contained by what? A Sagittarian unlimited quest for the more? One would have doubts as to whether containment was really in that part of the equation. Remember our Saturn down here? In Pisces? Basically forming a sine T-square to that full moon. Saying, by the way, don't get too carried away with what it is that you think you need to do. There are limits. Saturn speaking, from Pisces to what the solar objective really is. A version of spiritual awareness. And Pisces, the deepest and most profound oceanic awareness of what spiritual awareness could be, is in this equation, giving that solar energy a boost. To say there are reasons for why things are the way they are. Are you paying attention enough to what it is that you want and the cost factor of what that entails on so many different levels? That's all I'm going to do because I've probably gone on long enough. And happiest of Thanksgiving celebrations that everybody had. Happy birthday to all our Sagittarian folks out there. And may the Capricorn season, which is coming very soon, be a time when our reflective capacity of what it means to be in control take into consideration far more than simply what it is that I want. So ciao for now. I've been spending a lot of time in